this was a few years ago, so my daughter was maybe 10 or 11, where she explained to somebody that all I do is talk to people all day long, right? She doesn't know what I talk about, but that's what she thinks I do, right? I talk to people, right? But I don't think my kids truly have an appreciation for the work that we do, and the work that I do to help people, navigate the complexity of their financial lives, or now in my current role, helping entrepreneurial advisors build the businesses that they ultimately want to build. It's the only reason why I think that maybe more recently they have a little bit of a sense is that they've been able to attend more industry and company-wide events, just because of where they are in life now. When they were younger, we kept them, I would always have these nice, conferences and things that families would attend, and just what appeared from my wife and I's perspective as just bad times to take them out of school. And that's probably going to be a regret that I have, down the road, to be perfectly honest with you, is that we prioritized, grades. School is always very important, whether you're doing it at home or, school is always the priority over anything else. But we were very sensitive to allowing them to miss a few days of their public school education to not go experience something that could be more meanful, right? A conference, a trip, to expand their view of possibilities, like we spoke about earlier. My wife and I have started to kind of change our opinion on that. I think maybe COVID probably changed our opinion on that a little bit, and our appreciation or lack of appreciation for what they were maybe getting in school probably changed our opinion of that. But that was just 3-4 years ago, right? Before that, we didn't take my daughter out of school to go to a cool conference and see what dad does. And now that's starting to change. They've been around to some more company-wide events in the last couple of years, and I'm grateful for that. But I don't think they have a true appreciation for what I do on a day-to-day basis, how we help people navigate, their finances and plan and build wealth. And I don't think they have a good sense of what I do now, as the principal of the firm.
I want to challenge a couple of things. One, as you said, that school is always important, and I want to challenge that language and say that education is always the most important, right?
Thank you.
Because school is not always giving you education. And that, you fed right into it. I could tell in the things you were saying that you agree with that sentiment. I just wanted to put the words to it, because the education that your children get on going to those conferences, on seeing what dad does, on understanding what mom and dad do, and how all of this came to be, is, to me, oftentimes that life education is way more important than whether or not you remember, the War of 1812, right? I mean, coming from a guy who wanted to be a history teacher, I threw that one at you. I agree
with you 100%.
But I mean, I'm getting ready to go speak at a conference next week in Denver, and my intent is to bring my oldest with me. My wife and I have been going back and forth, like, oh, should we do it? Should we not? Blah, blah, blah. But, I want to bring my oldest with me. He's 9. He's homeschooled. And this was one of the biggest reasons I took them out of regular school and put them in homeschool, is my kids have now seen, not just driving through, because we drove from Florida to Texas and drove from Florida to Vermont, so they got to see a lot of states in between there. But they have spent multiple nights now in like 7 different states, six different states since starting homeschool just this year. And they would not have been able to do that if they were in regular school. So the education they got to sit there and watch dad put on his conference in San Antonio. They got to see me put on our company's conference in San Antonio, and go and check out real life history stuff. Go walk through the Alamo and see what's actually going on, and go walk through. We went to Philadelphia and spent a few nights in Philadelphia, and hey, let's see where the Declaration of Independence was written, and those types of things, those hands-on, tangible things they'll never forget. And oh my goodness, dad, what he's doing. He had 300 people in a room sitting there listening to him talk. That was awesome. Those are, to me, again, it goes back to education is by far. And I'm not trying to make this a commercial of that you should homeschool your kids by any means. But to me, that was one of the benefits. Who cares? Yank them out of school. I can make up plenty in the week I'm going to pull them out of school that you're not going to teach them. You're not going to be able to teach half of what I teach in this week that I've got them out with me. So, I always try to encourage folks, drag your kids with you if you can. Don't ever let, school or your job stop you from using an opportunity to help your kids.
I really could not agree more. And the education piece and the exposure that they have to different things on the road, traveling, absolutely. But it's just the experience, right? Like
For
your
sure.
kids have had the opportunity to see you in front of a room of 300 people, right? My kids have seen me do that in pictures, but they didn't get to stand in the back of the room and observe it. And I think that matters, right? And I applaud you for that. And that's, it's pretty cool. And I have to capitalize on the next opportunity I have to do that.
I said that specifically so you would applaud me and make me feel better. So I appreciate that. So, but it's one of those that's the looks you get sometimes when you say you homeschool is reminiscent of the looks that people used to give when like you and I were in junior high and high school, and you're like, oh, they're one of the homeschool kids, and it's like, oh man, homeschool has changed so much, like it's ridiculous. I was just reviewing. I was just reviewing literally right before we got on this call because I'm wanting to buy a few more things, and I'm forgetting what I'm allowed to buy with the money that Florida gives me for homeschool. I can buy my kid a brand new set of golf clubs every 2 years with the money that the state gives me for homeschool stuff. I can buy his golf lessons. I forgot that the 2 golf leagues he's in, I can actually use the homeschool stuff. So now I got to go find the receipts for that. Go turn them in. Like I paid for all this golf stuff, and now I can get it paid for it. It's like, what the heck am I doing? So I get him, experiencing so many different things by doing this as well, and like the ability to kind of make his world. Like I've got this science stuff. Man, that's another thing I need to pay for. I've got the science project thing that comes in every month. Man, oh man, I got to write all these notes on things I need to get reambused by the state for. But but again, it's not like what homeschool was when we were kids.
No, and I think
again, I missed it.
I said this is being recorded, so you'll be able to go back and review your notes on what you need to. What you can get reimbursed for. No, but I agree. Obviously, especially in the last 4 years, people's opinion of that path is very different. And I, it's cool that the world is changing in that way.
So now I'm gonna challenge you, throw something at you. What conversation do you want to have with your kids now that we just kind of exposed all this out? And what do you want to expose your kids to in your job that you haven't yet? Kind of what conversations do you want to start striking up at dinner or wherever to get some of this education flowing?
There's a couple of things. There's obviously bringing them around and helping to expand their view of possibilities. I have had the opportunity. We opened up a brand new office in Midtown Manhattan. At this point, my son's been there. My daughter will be there. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, she'll take a day off from school and come with me and just kind of get to see and how I interact with so many people. Nice. How I help a lot of different people. I think bringing them to the office with some regularity is pretty cool. I opened up a small satellite office here closer to home. And I think they're keenly aware of why I did that, and they've been around and witnessed that project. We have big offices in Westchester, New York, and Midtown Manhattan. I live up in Fairfield, Connecticut, and I opened up an office during COVID for the sole purpose of I'm always going to be closer to home, but I don't want to be in the home working all the time. And my kids get that, right? So I'm around the corner. There's this really cool space that I get to go to, but it's 10 minutes away instead of an hour away. So I have been able to expose my kids to that, and they've gotten to appreciate that I've been able to design my life because of the career that I have. But with respect to specific conversations, I'm going to absolutely make sure that they appreciate the story of the start of my career, the chance that I had because I put myself out there in what was seemingly a pretty random conversation. The point is you don't know what's going to come from any particular conversation with anybody, and you don't know what the possibilities are, and any limiting thought around what could or couldn't be an opportunity is such a mistake, right? So there's that conversation, that story. But I think we can all do a better job of coaching our kids on, how personal finance works. I think that's a big thing that lacks in we come across people all the time that are seemingly successful in whatever it is that they do, and they have a real lack of understanding of how personal finance works, right? Yeah. And I think given the work that I do and the coaching that I do around how money works and mortgages and insurances and investments. My kids are getting to an age where they absolutely can start to retain some of this, and it needs to be more of a dinner table type conversation. Not necessarily, and I guess this is a debate, should it be about our finances or not, which I think is an interesting conversation, but just about how money works, right? And how economies work and how investments work and how saving for a home works, right? And how, leverage works and debt, good debt, bad debt. Those are conversations that as my kids get older, I'm certainly more inclined to share with them.